Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 spots left to fill before we get to the big semifinal round of this tournament. Hello everyone, welcome to day number 8. For our first group, we have Nomo, Frank and Steen, D-Boom, and Dusty Miles. As we begin, it looks like it is D-Boom who's out in front, followed by Nomo and Dusty. Dusty Miles has been known in the past to set some incredible speed records, so let's see if they can do that again here. So far, they do have some contention from the likes of D-Boom and a little bit from Nomo, as those 3 race in front of the clown car. And now again, if you are new to this tournament, that clown car is not a normal thing. If they finish in front of you, then you do not get any points even if you do cross the finish line. But that is not the case for either D-Boom or Dusty, who finish in first and second respectively. Nomo almost was able to get points, but unfortunately the clown car finished in front of them, so will not count. Meanwhile, one racer seems to be missing from the finish line, and that is Frank and Steen, who gets stuck in a very familiar spot. I say that because in this tournament and in tournaments past, one of the most common places that I recall vehicles getting stuck is in the middle of a turn, or at least approaching one. Sometimes it's due to just because they didn't have the speed needed, or because of the way their vehicle is designed. So we'll see if this non-finish is just a fluke for Frankenstein, or something else is in play. But for now, D-Boom gets 5 points, Dusty Miles gets 3, Nomo almost got 2, but that was negated. Here we go into race number 2. Everyone switched lanes and off they go. So far it could be Dusty Miles, but I think that's actually D-Boom who has the slight edge currently. The lanes split and they are practically neck and neck. They both have the inside lane. D-Boom holds on to the lead, at least for now. That clown car is triggered, and this is a very familiar scene now. D-Boom is heading towards the straightaway leading into the final bend. So far, still holding on to that lead, but Dusty Miles is not too far behind. He's looking to make something happen. Couldn't quite do it. Meanwhile, Nomo, trying to get some points, still unable to do so. Even if the front of the vehicle did count to cross the finish line, they still will not be able to get any points. Meanwhile, Frank and Steen is pretty much stuck in the exact same spot as they were in the first race, just on the opposite side. It could very well be due to the way that vehicle is designed. Now, don't get me wrong, that is a creative design. I love the way that race car looks, but unfortunately, it does not seem to be helping them in terms of getting some points on the board. So far, the only people to do that are D-Boom and Dusty. D-Boom, out of this group, is the only one that can remain undefeated going forward at this point. So let's see if they can keep that going or not. They've had a decent amount of contention from Dusty, so I'm sure that could throw a wrench into things. Now with 10 and 6 points respectively, things just got a little bit more comfortable for D-Boom and Dusty, but they're not completely out of the woods yet. As is made evident right now, as Nomo is even more desperate now to get some points on that board. But I think the height of their vehicle caused them to possibly clip the ramp where the clown car comes out of, causing them to lose a little bit of momentum. And now D-Boom is all alone out in front. And from the looks of things, he could be the only finisher. They straighten themselves out on the wall, and they finish in first with one of the slower times we've seen in a while. Here comes Nomo trying to cross that finish line, but no! He skids to the side and loses all speed, coming to a stop. They had a perfect opportunity to get some points on the board, but that non-finish is going to make things a lot harder for them. That being said, Dusty Miles didn't finish either, so there's still possibly some hope for Dusty, but I don't think so. Meanwhile, Frankenstein stuck again in a very familiar spot now. Frankenstein has not been able to get around the second turn at all in any of these races. Not how I'm sure they wanted to have their races go. And I'm not sure exactly what caused the clown car to flip over, or for Dusty Miles to just stop there. But I'm sure that interaction that caused the clown car to go down the ramp, the trigger that sets them off, led up to it. But D-Boom is the only person to get points, so they are sitting comfortably in the front. 3 first place finishes means they are guaranteed to move on, and I don't think Dusty Miles can't move on now, since they have 6 points and the most anyone can get in a single race is 5. So even if Nomo were to get points on the board now, they will not be moving on. And oh my goodness, Frankenstein just went off the track. Not only could they not get around the turn, they just completely fell off. We're going to have to check on them at the end of this race, because that was not exactly a couple inches off the ground. That was high up. But for now, we'll focus on who's in front right now, which is Dusty Miles, followed by Nomo. D-Boom is much further back for whatever reason. Nomo finishes in first. But unfortunately, despite that first place finish, it's not gonna matter. It's going to be D-Boom and Dusty Miles who will be progressing. Now let's have a look at Frankenstein. The medics are definitely going to have to check this one out, which is made further evident by the fact that apparently the front and the back of their vehicle came completely off. That is one of the most brutal crashes I have ever seen in these tournaments. Hopefully, the driver is more intact than that vehicle is. We're going to have to get some staff on that one and make sure that they are okay. That is not the way they want to go out at all. But unfortunately, sometimes these things can happen. Absolutely devastating. Unfortunately, we didn't really have a way to look at that crash again on the replay, but feel free to go back and look at it again if you wish. Meanwhile, it will be Dusty Miles and D-Boom progressing to the next round. And now we'll have to move on. Hopefully Frankenstein is okay. We will have Gary Greg Pearson, Wes Cosen, Gale Force, and Numbskull participating in this group. They are the final group in the preliminaries here. And so far it is fan favorite Numbskull who has the lead, but Wes Cosen is not too far behind. And as the lanes come together, Numbskull still has that lead, but they are pinballing off the walls a little bit, allowing Wes Cosen to catch up. And Wes Cosen is trying to close that gap. So far, it seems to be having the opposite effect, as Numbskull is pulling away once again. Approaching the finish line, almost goes completely sideways, but smartly uses the wall to correct themselves, and Wes Cosen was able to block the clown car from passing them. And I don't know if that finish would have counted or not right there. But because they were behind the clown car, even if that would have counted otherwise, they will not get any points. So the only points in this round will go to Numbskull and Wes Cosen. That clown car, even on the entry, can throw other racers for a complete loop. Sometimes they land on top of a racer as they pass underneath, But thankfully that did not happen here. And from the looks of things, I don't think any speed records will be set today, as most finishes seem to be within the 17, possibly 18 second mark, whereas the fastest time was 16.25, which is currently held by Dex Hendricks, representing Blue Line Racing. Dex Hendricks is also one of, I believe, 4 undefeated racers at this point. And if anyone else is going to join them, it will be Numbskull. And now in this second race, Gale Force is actually next to Wes Cosin, who's trying to give Numbskull a run for their money again. But Wes Cosin is pulling away. He spins out a bit though, and he slows down significantly. Tries to straighten themselves out again. We're not quite sure what happened. We'll have to check later on, as Numbskull takes off, leaving everyone else far behind. And now approaching the finish line, stays off the walls for the most part, but from the looks of things, they will be the only person to finish in this set. We have one person in the straightaway before the finish line. The clown car was stuck around there in the last group. I believe that is Wes Cosin, who is upside down. Very unfortunate. And there's Gale Force stuck on that bend, leading towards the bottom level. So Numbskull ended up being the only person to finish, and I think that little traffic jam after Wes Cosin spun out is a big cause for that. Because look how far everyone fell behind shortly after that happened. You can see Gale Force trying to pick up some speed again, but did not have enough to get around that turn down there. So Numbskull can breathe a bit of fresh air after that little finish, because they are the only person to get points, and 5 points can make a big difference in this group. Or in this tournament, rather. Gary tried to make something happen, could not pull it off. So Gary and Gale still do not have any points. Definitely making Numbskull feel a little bit better. Wes Cosin, while that certainly helps them, they are not guaranteed to move on even after just that happening. Now Gale Force is trying to keep up with Numbskull, but Numbskull's pulling away. And as the lanes merge back together, Wes Cosin actually has the lead for the moment. Numbskull trying to find their way around. Could not quite do it, but then they found an open window there, and now they have the lead once again. And now they're pulling away, leaving Wes Cosin behind. And they're trying to approach the finish line, and they are staying clean off the walls. That is one of the straightest finishes I've seen on that straightaway, as most people bounce off the walls at least once or twice, but Numbskull kept in the middle. But Gale Force and Gary still can't get any points on that board. And in a very similar occurrence with the first group, I don't think it is possible for either one of them to move on now, even if they get some points now. The clown car almost landed on top of Gale Force, and I think they were close enough though that the shockwave caused them to spin around a little bit, and the clown car was able to get in front of them as a result. Look how clean that finish was, staying off the walls all the way to the end. Still not the fastest time we've seen, not by a good bit, but as I keep saying, anyone who moves on will have more opportunities to improve later. So there you have it, with Wes Cosin finishing in second twice. That automatically knocks out Gale Force and Gary from progressing in this tournament. So now Numbskull and Wes Cosin can take a victory lap of sorts But with Numbskull only one race away from staying undefeated, at least for the moment, I'm sure they still want to give it their best shot. West Coast is actually trying to spin Numbskull out a couple times. Did not succeed. And Numbskull was able to keep up the speed and stay in front of West Coast for now. Going around the final turn, heading into the straightaway, towards the finish line, trying to stay off the walls again. I think they managed to pull it off. I'm not entirely sure. But this very familiar setup happens yet again. Here comes Gary. Not sure where they got that speed from if they're that far behind. But they lost most of it going around that bend back there. And they couldn't even get up to where Gale Force is, who didn't finish either. That will leave us with just 4 races left for today. So Numbskull and West Coast will be moving on. But whether or not they will progress in the next round to get to the semifinals is another matter entirely. So let's see if Numbskull was able to stay off the walls again. It looked like they got close, but they somehow managed to pull it off. So now this set is pretty much over. Again, I'm not sure where Gary got that speed from, but just as quickly as they got it, it disappeared. So congratulations to Numbskull and Wes, who will now race in the final round, going up against Dusty Miles and D-Boom. We've seen most, if not all, of these racers compete before, so this ought to be interesting. They're actually staying side by side. Usually we see a lot more separation than this, but that is not the case now. So it's hard to tell who has the lead. Currently, it looks like Numbskull has an edge, and D-Boom goes sideways a little bit, blocking the other racers, and we have, I think, 2 racers flip over going around that turn. And they might have stopped the clown car in the tracks. I think we caught a glimpse of them still moving down the track, but Numbskull is trying to stay undefeated, and they so far still are. But look at this, we still have 1 racer coming down the track that looks like Wes, finishing in front of the clown car. I thought we saw 2 racers flip upside down, and maybe we did, and one of them corrected themselves. But we have at least 1 non-finish. In fact, not only... Oh, it looked like they might have gone off the track, but no. D-Boom landed upside down. It looked like another racer did the same, but again, maybe they fixed themselves up and got back on their wheels to keep going. It's hard to tell from some of these angles. But I believe Numbskull still hasn't lost a race yet. If I'm wrong, that will be corrected in the notes moving forward. But that was definitely close between him and Dusty. Sometimes one single little error can make the biggest difference when a racer is that close to you. But for now, 5 points will go to Numbskull. West Coast and D-Boom, despite their impressive performance leading up to this, are struggling a little bit. And now here we are seeing some separation that looks like Dusty Miles falling back a little bit. And now Numbskull currently holds the lead, but D-Boom is not happy about how that last race went. So they're trying to make something happen here, but West Coast comes out of nowhere and rockets in front of both of them. And now the other 3 are fighting for second place while the clown car trails behind. But here comes Numbskull again, trying to get that undefeated title, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to get it, as Wes Cosen finishes in first. A much needed break for Wes. These are the kind of races we live for. Sometimes it's a clear-cut winner from beginning to end, but then other times you get something like this. Brilliant racing by all, but now Numbskull cannot be undefeated, so we will only have 4 in the semifinals who are. It's not every day you see everybody finish in front of the clown car either, so this is a treat. So everyone got points on that one. Numbskull still has the lead with 8, but that first place finish by Wes definitely helped him catch up quite a bit. And now here we go into the third race. Dusty Miles started falling back again, but it looks like D-Boom was slowing down a little bit as well. Right now Numbskull has the definitive lead, triggering that clown car, and everyone is actually in front of it. So there goes Numbskull again, trying to maintain that big lead just in case they slip up anywhere. And as they head towards the finish line, they do pinball a little bit off those walls. But Wes was able to block Dusty and D-Boom from passing them, allowing them to get more points, this time 3. Which will definitely help them overall. I think that will put them in second in overall points. And the clown car was the only one that didn't finish. This is definitely unusual. It's definitely welcomed, but not something we often see. At least not in this form of tournament. Yeah, the clown car, for whatever reason, just could not keep straight and skidded along both sides of the track, making them lose any speed that they possibly had. So now we have 1 race left. Numbskull has the lead in points, followed closely by Wes and Dusty. It could still go to either one of them. A first place finish would help either of them greatly. But they will have to go up against Numbskull to make that happen. So far they did once. Can they do it again? So far Numbskull has the lead, but not by much. D-Boom and Wes are fighting for second place. D-Boom tried to block Wes, but now that just causes all the other racers to pile up on each other, while Numbskull leaves them all way behind. Heading towards the finish line, are they going to stay off the walls? Not really. But they do finish in first. They will go on with the most points out of the 4. And I believe that second place finish guarantees Wes a spot alongside them. D-Boom wasn't able to get to the finish this time around. And neither was Dusty. Normally known for pulling off impressive times, will not be moving on after the preliminaries of this tournament. And the clown car will still be moving on, so to speak, because they will be throwing a wrench into some of these future races. I'm sure of it. And even if they don't, it's bound to keep the racers on their toes. And this will conclude the preliminaries, as all spots are now filled. And I believe we will go down to 8 racers leading into the finals, which you will see later. But phenomenal racing by all, and our roster of 16 is filled. We will cut it down to 8 in the near future. Thank you all so much for watching. See you for the semifinals.